It is Tuesday? No, it's not Tuesday. It's Wednesday night. And you know what that means. It's normally Tuesday night. But Channel 4 decided they wouldn't show the highlights until a day late. Obviously, being on at 12:30 at night. It was X-rated. Anyway, we are here with the Sunday Night League SNL F1 podcast, and today we are going to be talking about the Crypto.com Miami GP. But I can't do it alone. Of course I can't. I am here with two distinguished guests. One of them has dyed his hair red so he can score a point, and that is SNL Wolfbane. Good evening, SNL Wolfbane. How are you?
I haven't dyed my hair red, just for clarification, but I'm very good, Jam. I'm very, very good.
They're trying to do an Albon. Score a point in the quiz. That's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can't do it without the distinguished guest, but he doesn't need to wear his underpants on the outside of his race suit to be my superhero. It is Matt Psycho. Good evening, Matt Psycho.
Do you write these down? Do you make these up before you start, or these like winged?
I have. I'm just winged, to be honest.
Very well winged.
It's very good. I like the point one. That's good.
There we go. You don't like your Superman reference.
Oh, there we go.
With
It's
your
super formula trying to go around the ridiculously tight hairpin again.
Oh, there it is. Everybody, watch YouTube. There he goes. Oh, he's made it. Yay! Salek is in the chat. Good evening, Salek. We are on live on YouTube.
My teammate. Good evening.
Salek, part of the Corvette team that is scaring everyone. Hopefully, Yokas will join us as well, and that is a potential of some very strong results in that Corvette, actually, because Yokas is very good in Group 3s. So, yes, a great little team set up by Endurance Nut for the GTE Championship, which starts on Sunday. Join us live for Spa, where we'll reboot the lobby probably a couple of times and then actually get the race started for the 24-hour race circuit. So we will be going into the dark, which is going to be impressive. I did do it the other night, and yes, we're going to be running in the dark for about 20-25 minutes, which should be cool. So just in time for some rain to affect everything as well, because we've got dynamic weather in that championship. Anyway, guys, we are here to talk about the Crypto.com Miami GP. And first of all, Miami Street Circuit in general, what did you think about it, Matt?
Oh, I was muted. Usually get Wolfbane first. I quite liked it, actually. It's a bit of a shame they couldn't sort the surface out, but oh, hang on, what's going on there? Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can still hear you.
Cool. Yeah, no, they had to obviously patch the track up after, I think, before they'd even gone out. But no, I liked it. I quite liked the Mickey Mouse bit that everyone seemed to hate, because it enforced mistakes and stuff. So no, I thought it was good, pretty good overall as a track. I think they need to sort the surface out. It wasn't quite as bad as everyone was whinging about beforehand, that it was going to be like driving on glass offline and da-di-da-di-da. They all seem to pull off a few moves and stuff. So no, I thought overall as a track, it wasn't bad.
No, I must admit I'm on a similar vein with the Mickey Mouse bit in turn 14 around the stadium and the highway. Yeah, that looked quite cool and was mistake-inducing, as you said. And I must admit I'm a fan of the old Singapore Sling, where it used to cause errors as well. But they tamed it, and I hope next year they don't tame that area. But Wolfbane, what did you think of the circuit in general?
I really liked it. It was, It did force mistakes. I was going to say we didn't see as many mistakes in the race, except we had 5 DNFs. But it's always refreshing to see a new track on the calendar, and I quite like it as a track. Yeah.
Apparently they cannot. I don't think they can change that chicane. There's the stipulated height of anything above the track. It's related to speed.
Oh.
So the reason why they put that chicane in is because they've got those the freeway. There's two. I think there's two freeways above it, isn't there? As they go under. So because of the topology of the land, it's going up where they want it to go down. It meant they had to put the chicane in to keep the speed below a certain threshold, because I think they only had, I don't know, what was it, 3-4 meters or whatever that distance was. So I don't think they can, unless they, sort of bulldoze a lot of the track and take it down. I think that chicane's there to stay, which I think annoyed the drivers a bit. But no, I was reading that there are rules about how much clearance you've got versus speed, and that's why they put the chicane in to slow them down.
That's an interesting point there. Mika is in the chat. Good evening, Mika. She's struggling to hear Wolfbane and Matt compared to me. Well, Mika, you've got lots of me in your ears. There you go. Wolfbane, we'll ask Wolfbane next then, just to see what his volumes are like. Qualifying in general, we saw Ferrari take their first 1-2 in a long time in qualifying, and yes, actually, Wolfbane, you are quite quiet. I can't hear you.
Interesting.
There we go. If you've turned yourself up a little bit, all okay my end, Sir Sarlacc.
Please excuse
there we
the
go.
blue screen for a moment. I'm just going to try and sort my audio out.
Very good result for Ferrari, though Verstappen could have been up there. Bottas, though, I think was the star. P5 for him in that Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, he's doing a brilliant job. You hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear
I've
you.
turned myself up a bit. Yeah, I mean, he almost missed out on Q2, I think. He just made it through.
It's just squeezed in, yes.
Yeah, so, he made a slight mistake in the race, didn't he? But, to out-qualify the Mercs, it's just outrageous. He must be loving it, so, yeah. Fair play to him.
I don't know if it got mentioned on the Sky coverage, but apparently that Alpha is running quite light in comparison to everybody else.
Yeah, I think they're one of the lighter ones. Yeah,
one of the lighter cars. So they're not having to strip back the livery like Williams are to get some weight off it.
Run a carbon livery.
The carbon livery with a Duracell air intake, as they were proudly showing off on their social medias at the weekend. But Wolfbane's qualifying, yes, we saw the cars in anger. It was quite exciting, really. But anybody else star for you in qualifying? I just had Bottas really there in P5.
Tsunoda?
But did it?
I mean, he was beaten by Gasly again, but he's consistent. He seems to be, or I might be completely wrong here, because I usually am completely wrong about these things. But
well, we're not doing a quiz, Wolfbane, so
true. He seems to be kind of consistently in the realms of the top 10 in every qualifying session, which is, and he's closer to Gasly than he was last year. He's kind of a bit of a. I'm enjoying watching Tsunoda this season because he's, I think, improved quite a bit since last season. Either the cars are suiting him more, or it's, I mean, he's not doing what Bottas is doing to the Alfa Romeo, but it's nice to see him as a teammate to Gasly rather than a long way away from him.
It feels to me this season, I don't know if it is the same for you two, AlphaTauri are a little bit under the radar. Gasly in particular, we've seen Gasly the past couple of seasons make a big name for himself, putting that car where it shouldn't be, and this season kind of he's there where it should be, but he's also had some very strange races as well. We'll talk about his incident with Norris a little bit later, but they do seem to be having a bit of a funny, quiet season without doing anything spectacular, but as you say, they're both there or thereabouts in the qualifying session. So let's go to the race then, and before we even started, Aston Martin were put into the pit lane for an odd fuel mishap, which I must admit I didn't fully understand. I believe it was to do with the temperature of the fuel. Was that right, Matt?
Yeah, that's what they said on Sky before it, that it was too cold, I think. Obviously, they measure it by volume, and obviously the volume can change on the temperature. So apparently they're both running too cold. I don't know if someone forgot to press the switch. It could be as simple as that, really. But I thought they did a good job. I don't know if you want to where you want to get to with talking about the races, but I thought they both did pretty well, and I was a bit gutted for Vettel actually. How his race finished up, because he had some good scraps. I mean, there was a lot of criticism of the TV coverage. I didn't think it was too bad, and they actually covered a lot of the sort of mid and lower end field stuff. There was a lot on the sort of that DRS train that was going on. So I thought they recovered pretty well at Aston Martins. To be fair,
they
safety
did.
guy helped them, but I think they recovered pretty well.
They did, and we did see a lot of that sort of midfield scrap and swapping of positions. They seem to be having a good little fight at the midfield. I know the front was quite close, but when there is overtaking happening, I'd rather see that on track than watching Verstappen leading comfortably by a second and a half to Leclerc. So, it was a bit unjust, that coverage criticism, I think, as well. What about you, Wolfbane? What do you think of the coverage, Aston Martin in general, from the race, and the scraps that we saw as well? Maybe mentioning a few little bits.
Coverage seemed fine to me. I truth be told, I never really have many criticisms about the coverage. I don't really have many criticisms about anything, to be fair. unless I feel very strongly about it, which I don't really feel very strongly about the coverage. The Aston Martins were, they did a great job. As you said, Matt, gutted for Vettel, but it seems like they're making steps as well. They seem to be in a position where they're not going to finish 19th and 20th consistently. They seem to have sorted some of the issues that plagued them in the first couple of rounds out, and it's nice to see them doing well again. That DRS train was interesting to watch, shall we say.
It definitely was, especially when we had the two Mercedes at the end of the race fighting with each other. But let's go to the beginning of the race. We had Leclerc on pole and Sainz in second, and Verstappen third. And Verstappen got around the outside of Sainz. A crucial move, that, I feel, in the turn one. Sainz may be feeling a little bit like, I've just got to survive this first few laps, because the previous two races he hasn't. Wolfbane, your thoughts on Verstappen's move and Sainz as well, in general, over the weekend? He seemed to basically put this one as, I just need to get some points on the bag and just not mess up this weekend. Yeah,
it was a fairly solid weekend from Sainz. It wasn't anything particularly special, but it was improvement on the last couple of rounds, which is always good to see. It's just nice to see Sainz in a car that's podium worthy at the moment. And Verstappen's move, as you said, probably fairly critical. Whether he would have still got past Leclerc at some point, it's hard to say. There's so many variables in these races that, let's hope this is the start of a better time for Sainz.
And Matt, I know a few rounds ago you said that the Red Bull was the car to beat. It definitely looked it around Miami again as well. So we've got, what is it? Verstappen's won every single race he's finished, which is quite ominous, really.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, just touching on Sainz as well. When he shunted, I was like,
yes.
oh no.
FP2, yes.
He's obviously not comfortable in the car, and I think he's struggling to find where that edge is. I think it's quite a fine line, and he's either not pushing hard enough or he's going too far. But I thought he did a pretty good job to come back from that, and especially he said after the race that he wasn't 100% or anywhere near it. I think Ocon said the same. So no, I think I think Wolfbane's absolutely right. He just had to get something on the board, and then he did a good job. I think he was a bit helped out that Perez had a problem, but no, I was pleased for him to get third. Red Bulls, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens in Spain, because I think Ferrari can have an upgrade. But that car just looks quicker, I think. That low drag they've gone for gives them a bit more top end at the end of the straights. I think I was impressed that Leclerc was hanging on to him after safety car restart. But I think Verstappen had him covered. As soon as he got out of DRS range, he was pretty much gone. But yeah, no, it's still a good scrap. I mean, yeah, you can't complain. I mean, how many? I think is it pretty much every race so far, or most of them have had a change of lead on the track.
Yes.
I mean, you can't complain at that, can you? So.
I'm sure somebody will be saying it's too easy to overtake in Formula One. Or something like that.
Someone is always complaining about the overtaking, no matter what you do to it. You can't please everyone.
I mean, ideally, you don't want DRS too. You want to make the cars be able to follow each other. But I don't know. I mean, if you've been karting, I've done way back when I was slightly fitter than I am now and less old. I've done so many races where you'd be following lap after lap, not being able to get past someone until they made a mistake, and that's in karting, so it's not as if every other form of motorsport, it's MotoGP styles of passing and Formula One's the anomaly. It's not that at all, so yeah. I think they've got a reasonably good balance, and I think if cars are proving that they can follow each other and be a bit more organic, they'll dial it back. But no, I thought it's good to see battles for the lead, isn't it, between the pair of them?
If they could do anything to improve it, is possibly reduce the power of DRS slightly.
Or the shorten it.
Yeah.
It is a weird sort of black science, though, is the DRS, because no one really knows how it works. Because some tracks it's really effective, and other tracks it's not at all. It seems a very bizarre art to the whole thing. And we've had DRS now. When was it introduced? 2011?
It's Pat on.
Pat, save us. Pat, save us. When was DRS introduced? I want to say 2011. I don't think it was around in... Oh, look at that.
Google says 2011.
Brilliant.
Well done.
Because I remember 2010 was the whole F-duct and movable devices in the cockpit. So 2011, I thought so. There we go. I'm not too bad. There we go. I'm still awake. We've got that Red Bull. I'm getting sort of I don't know about. Well, Wolfbane won't be, because Wolfbane was 5. I'm getting. I'm
guessing about 2010, are you?
Yeah, 2010. It's more 2020. So I'm getting 2005 vibes from this. 2005, as normal people would say it, with a quick McLaren in the form of Kimi Raikkonen and a reliable but still very quick little Renault in Fernando Alonso. I'm sort of getting those feels from this season at the moment, with Leclerc just having to just get the points when he can at the moment, but Verstappen definitely seems to have the quicker package right now. Is anybody else feeling that, or is that me just reminiscing?
That's a good shout. That's a good shout.
Good point.
Yeah,
very good point.
There we go. See, I can contribute some good stuff as well sometimes. But let's talk about so very weird sort of incident that set the safety car up, and it helped a lot of drivers out. Russell in particular, who at one point said, let's just keep going with the hards and the safety car might happen. Well, it did. On lap 41, Gasly and Norris had a bit of a weird incident there. Gasly made a mistake. We've said about how the track gave a chance for mistakes to happen. Gasly made one and then seemed to forget that Norris might be coming, or I don't really know. I've not seen a particularly good angle of this. So, Wolfbane, what happened?
From what I understand, Norris ran wide at God knows what corner, a hairpin, I think. He ran slightly deep, although it looked like he went very deep, and a whole load of cars went up his inside. And Gasly... I'm not exactly sure what happened with Gasly, but from a team radio, I think it was, it sounded like Gasly wasn't looking in his mirrors and they just collided. And, yeah. That's,
a bit,
as you said, a weird incident.
Apparently, it was because of the knock that Alonso gave him.
Yes. Yeah,
and I think he was struggling to turn the car, was apparently what he said. And I think he was basically, I don't know if he was like kind of pulling off or what, but yeah, I think he went wide because the car was damaged, and then yeah, it was just a little bit sort of clumsy the way they. I mean, I think looking at the replay, it looked almost like Gasly was drifting a bit left, but Norris didn't give him enough room. So it looked just a little bit clumsy. That it wasn't solely Gasly's fault. In fact, did they look at it? I can't remember if they did.
No, I don't think they did. I don't think anything was made of it.
Yeah, so I don't think I think it was just both in the wrong place at the wrong time. But Norris should have given him more room.
It was just a bit of a daft incident, a bit like the qualifying incident between Latifi and Stroll we saw at Melbourne, where it just two cars in the wrong place at the wrong time do exactly the wrong movement, and it ends up with both of them sort of out. Very strange sort of result. We did see Perez have an absolute dive bomb on Sainz after the restart into turn one. That to me, from the angle we first saw it, never looked on, but then we saw another angle. Perez had a bit of a funny race, really, for him. Matt, you've mentioned it earlier. He had some issues in the race. If you were Perez, what would you be thinking after Miami?
I think he'd be reasonably happy. He was losing 20-something kilowatts power, 25 horses or something. You know, he's losing quite a big chunk, half a second or something, or even more time. So, his dive bomb was kind of, he had one shot at it and tried it, didn't come off, but and I think, didn't he have a bad pit stop too? I think.
I don't know, because Channel 4 didn't seem to show any of the pit stops. They just happened.
So I think he had a slow stop as well, but I think Sainz did as well. No, I think fourth was probably the best he could have done. I mean, there is a gap between the four of them, isn't there? That it does seem Verstappen and Leclerc are a step ahead of the other two. But I think he would have got third without his problem, which is probably the best he could have done. So, but yeah, I think Red Bull do need him getting up there to 1-2s, don't they? I thought he had a decent race. I think he's doing everything that Red Bull sort of wants of him. What happens in the future? That's going to be interesting.
Oh, that could be a whole debate as well. But
Albon to Red Bull 2024. There you go. You heard it here first.
Ooh. Oh, that's a shout. So, well, let's before we get to Albon talk, we've mentioned it and we've skirted around it. Turn one, that was what seemed to be the area where people were trying to make their moves. Mick Schumacher on Vettel, we had Ocon there having a watch of it as they were fighting for 9th, 10th places. And yes, was that ever on Wolfbane from Mick?
My understanding of what happened there is, well, I say minimal. It's not minimal. I saw it and can kind of remember it. I don't think it was on. It was a brave move. It was,
Matt, can you remember the incident?
Yeah, no, it was a bit of a. It was a lunge. It was one of those sort of ones you think if that was me in a race, you would probably go for it. but you would accept that you'd probably get done for it afterwards, because it was. I don't think it's one of those things that you turn in and you don't expect someone to be there. I think it was more. It was interesting, their first reactions that you always hear. I don't know if they showed it on Channel 4, but Vettel said, there wasn't a gap there. What's he doing? And Mick was like, he didn't leave me room.
Yeah. Although Mick was quite sheepish in the way that he said it as well. So
yes,
it wasn't.
He realised it was his mentor that he just punted out the points. But I feel sorry for him because he was having a cracking race, and he's a really good scrap with Magnussen. He got the better of him. I just hope he I'm not his biggest fan, but he had a pretty good weekend. He just needs to get the monkey off his back now. I was going to
say that we spoke I think it was the last podcast about Mick and how his career at the moment is at quite a crucial point. But we then said, well, if he gets a point, it may all start flowing. And Miami was really on the pace of Magnussen and out racing him, really. So is it going to happen, Wolfbane? Is Mick going to score points, or is he just going to be
so close? He's been so close, and then he makes a mistake, or he just I think he will score points, but I don't know how soon it's going to happen. It could be quite a while. I have a horrible feeling.
It does feel like it is one of those that it's been so close so often that it is starting to get to him, maybe, possibly. This is just from the outside, we don't know for sure, but it's speculation. But it does seem to be, as you say, a monkey on his back. But somebody who has definitely not got a monkey on his back is Alex Albon. This season, we all said sort of pre-season Alex Albon will do really good things in the Williams, maybe not George Russell type things, but actually, is he doing George Russell type things, Matt? Is he?
He's not far off. I think he's driving brilliantly. Was he 18th on the grid, and I think they underachieved in qualifying, but he's they interviewed him on Sky afterwards, and he sort of said it's partly him that he had a year out and took the time to be around Red Bull and get a better understanding what a driver needs to do and how they can lead the team. I think he was very much led when he was at Red Bull. I think that year out has really helped him. But also he's got a bit less pressure on him as well. And I think he's driving as well as everyone kind of hoped he would 2 years ago. So no, I think he's a great guy as well. When they interview him, he's just comes across such a nice guy. So I think he's doing brilliantly. I think they've just got to get rid of Lafiti. But Albon, I think it's really pleasing to see how well he's doing. He's just driving the nuts off that car. It's great.
Great turn of phrase there as well. Wolfbane, anything to add to Albon's sort of? We mentioned him in pre-season and said, watch out for Albon. He could do something special, and he's exceeding expectations for sure.
He's driving phenomenally. It's quite something to see him go from back of the grid to tail end of the points multiple times, and he's driving really well. As Matt said, I think Latifi's. He's not. He didn't finish. Well, did he? According to the official standings, he didn't finish last of the finishing drivers. I don't know if Mick did finish the race. I kind of assume he did, seeing as he was 73 seconds behind and not a lap down. So.
Yes, so I was surprised by that as well, looking at the results. Mick was officially last, but Latifi. Shall we talk about the problem that is Latifi? Because this is round number 5 of the championship. Yes, the cars have all changed, but it's the same for everybody else. He really seems to be struggling. really struggling after getting on the pace of Russell at the end of last year and showing actually there is a good driver there. It's just not happening. What do you think it is, Wolfbane? Is it because of the end of last season, or is it the end of, or is it the new cars, or what is it going on there with Nicholas? Because something's wrong.
Yeah, something is very wrong. I just had a look at it. Norris crashed on lap 39. He DNF'd. So yeah, that's fairly middle of the race. He still finished 20 seconds behind his teammate. That doesn't ever look good. And when you're doing that or more every single race, it's not... The team don't want to see that. They're going to be looking for replacements. What's going on with him? I have no idea. He might be struggling with the cars. He probably is still struggling with the cars. We are seeing people still struggle with the cars on occasion, but most people have got a handle on them now. We're not seeing the real issues that people were having that we saw in the first couple of rounds. They do seem to be getting more in sync with the cars, but Latifi just... I mean, I'm surprised he didn't crash this week. It's just... I have no idea what's going on there, and it's really sad to see, because I like Latifi, but he needs to step his game up. He really does.
He seems a very nice guy, and his way into motorsport as well was very much... He just wanted to be a driver, is what my impression was. He was literally just racing anything. On his way up, he was driving Porsche Cup races, F3, all sorts, and then he was told to just try and focus. What do you want to do? And he does seem a nice guy, but it does get to a point where Williams are in this position. Do they need the money he obviously brings to the team? He does bring money to the team. Do you start looking elsewhere, Matt, or do you say, no, we'll keep persevering, we'll keep you... I'm basically saying, do we see a change mid-season with Latifi? I think it's at that point where we could, if it continues, see that.
Well, yeah, he does bring a lot of money, I think, doesn't he? But... Yeah, I mean, I think we said before, didn't we, that Russell, I think, probably backed off a bit towards the end of last year, but he was matching him, out qualifying him. So, it's a little bit of stroll in there, isn't he? He's got to be a reasonably decent driver to do that. But yeah, for whatever reason, he just doesn't seem to gel with 2022 cars, and he is struggling. And yeah, given Albon's performing miracles. I don't know. I mean, there's so many decent young guys coming up, isn't there? And yeah, I don't know. It's uncomfortable. I wouldn't want to be him. He needs to start getting on Albon's level sooner rather than later. Otherwise, yeah, they might think. I don't think they'll replace him mid-season, but certainly at the end of the season, yeah, you might well be looking for another drive.
It's definitely.
I wonder if all that rubbish that he got thrown at him last year about the Abu Dhabi crash, I wonder if that affected him. I'd be surprised, but you never know. He did get a lot of completely misplaced abuse about that.
He did. It is one of those things where maybe it is starting to hear. Here we go. Here's Pat. Pat's in the chat. He's saving us. Pat's in the chat. I'd heard rumours about Piastri being loaned from Alpine, but only paddock mid-season, silly season rumours, I assume. Yes. I mean, Piastri in Formula 1 needs to happen.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
That is an issue. Where does he get his drive? Because I can't see Alonso's having a funny season at the moment. He's driving really well. And yet, you look at the point standings, and he's scored 2 points. So Alonso's having a funny season. I think he's signed up, isn't he? Or is this the end of his contract? I can't remember. Is there a seat there at Alpine next year?
Let's have a look.
I think
Alonso's having a typically Alonso season.
he's
He's trying well, but he's partly, or quite a lot actually, been the maker of his own downfall.
Is he having his career in one season?
Yes, no, he is for sure. He's massively so. Like he hit Gasly at the start, gets a penalty for that, and then does a pretty. Given that what Alonso we know and love, his first corner move was premeditated. He apparently noticed on the parade lap that there was grip on the outside of the track. This is what he reckons, and therefore he thought, I'm going to go around the outside, and it worked. So that's like the sort of tenacious Alonso we know and love, if that's true. You know, he can be full of it as well. But then he hits Gasly, and then at the end he accidentally shortcuts the chicane, sets the fastest middle sector for miles, and then backs off. But he backed off in a place that effectively affected the result, because he got out of DRS range of Schumacher, which let Ocon get Schumacher, because Schumacher no longer had DRS, and then backed off at the end of the lap and said, I've backed off, I'm all good. And it's like, well, yes, you probably, I think there was a couple of attempts that he didn't quite back off enough, but it's probably more the fact by doing it, he got out of DRS range and allowed his teammate to pass Schumacher because of it. That's why they did him. And it's like, yeah, that was all premeditated. If you miss the chicane, it's a bit like when we race, isn't it? You don't wait until the end of the lap to go, oh, shit, I better back off in case I get caught. You back off straight away, don't you? Or you don't do it at all. But you don't wait, 3/4 of a lap to do it. So, yeah, that's just Alonso all over.
So,
yes.
After having looked it up, Ocon has a contract until 2024. Alonso's finishes at the end of this year. So there is a seat at Alpine.
It all depends, doesn't it? If he's loving it and wants to stay,
if he wants it,
they'll keep him.
I don't see a Michael Schumacher-esque situation at Ferrari where Michael said, "Oh, well, I don't want to take the seat away from Massa. I'll hold off. Oh, I'll retire, but I don't really want to." I don't see Alonso doing that for Piastri. I see Alonso going, "No, I want to stay. Give me my contract, please." So, yeah, it'll be interesting with Fernando. Let's have a look then at the race result. Let's see if there's anybody we haven't really mentioned. So Verstappen won from Leclerc. Sainz was third. Fourth was Perez. Fifth was Russell, who we haven't really mentioned. He had a very good race again. Looked out with the safety car, maybe, but again, top 5 for Russell. 6th, Hamilton. 7th, Bottas. 8th, Ocon. Ocon's having a weird season. He's, again, not really doing much, but he's scoring consistently. 9th is Albon. 10th is Stroll. After Alonso's penalties, Alonso finished 11th. 12th, Tsunoda. 13th, Daniel Ricciardo, which just another weekend there for Daniel, where we've said it too much on this podcast. Daniel's in a bit of trouble, I think.
I think I might be remembering this wrong, but I think he had a long pit stop which chucked him out of the back of the DRS train.
Ah, right. Again, that may be Channel 4's coverage.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It might have been Norris that had the long pit stop. I can't remember.
I think it was Norris.
Yeah.
Because he came out kind of in the middle of it all, and then the hards were taking ages to warm up, and he kind of got it's one of those things that you sort of one person puts a move on you and you get put offline, and then you lose.
Yes, he got swamped, didn't he? Yes, I remember that. That was sort of earlier in the race. Latifi 14th and 15th was Mick Schumacher. So that means the championship, Leclerc leads with 104 points, but Verstappen is only 19 points behind with 85 points. Perez 66, George Russell still up there 59, Sainz 53, Hamilton 36, Norris 35, Bottas 30. Bottas only 6 points behind Hamilton in that Alpha. That's crazy. That just says how crazy the season's been. 9th Ocon with 24 and 10th is Magnussen. Ferrari only leading the championship by 6 points to Red Bull. That's quite tasty. Mercedes have got 95 points in third. 4th are McLaren with 46. 5th are Alfa with 31. Alpine with 26. Alpha Tauri with 16 in 7th. Haas 15 points, so again very close. 9th for Aston Martin with 6, and Williams have got 3 points there in 10th. So it's great. We've got all 10 teams, as we said last time, have scored points now, and it's great that there's a great competitive order. It's always strange. I meant to mention this in the last podcast, but I forgot to. It's always strange when we have a rule shake-up. We get the midfield incredibly close, and then we get two teams that seem to crack it and go quite far ahead and have a gap. One time, I hope that the whole of the field are actually like the mid-pack, and it's just craziness all the time. But that's probably just me and my SNL brain
that would
working.
be brilliant, but yeah, I think it's unlikely. There's always teams that are in the previous season kind of not really developing their car a bit and just preparing for the next season, and then they get it right. And the teams that are lower down in the previous seasons come closer to the middle, and it all kind of works out, and then it settles back into an order after a few seasons. It would be great to see. I don't think we'll see it.
Probably not, but you know, we can always wish for. Matt, you mentioned on the 8th of May, it was obviously the 40th anniversary of Gilles Villeneuve. You mentioned it on our Discord. And Gilles, I know, is one of your favourites. Anything you'd like to add about Gilles? And obviously 40 years since, unfortunately, that sad day in Belgium.
Yeah, it's mad. It's 40 years. I've actually been reading quite a few articles on it over the last couple of days. A few of them, actually, I've not actually read before, which is quite interesting. There was an interesting interview with Jodie Scheckter that I was reading at lunchtime today, which was... he was... Arnoux was still my favourite, but Villeneuve was a close second. Just a very... I don't know, almost mystical kind of character he was. And I think there's a lot more to him than sort of people. He was a very clever racer, very thoughtful as well. People got this image of him doing crazy things, and he did. But there's been a lot of good stuff this week about him, and some of his best drives, and how some of his greatest races were very thoughtful races. He wasn't just driving on his nerves, and I mean, he did want to be the quickest for every single lap, which I think was why he might have struggled to be champion. Scheckter was saying he hadn't worked that bit out, that sometimes you just need to finish third rather than trying to be quickest over every single lap. But it's there was interesting stories about whether that whole Pironi Imola incident caused his death, or was he trying to beat him? And some people said, well, no, not particularly. He was on used tyres when he was doing his lap. Probably knew he wasn't going to go quicker, but he just had to go flat out all the time. It's if you've not, if you don't know much about the backstory, it's well worth a look. It was a completely different. If you had a crash back then, the chances were you were going to hurt yourself. And they were more like gladiators, I think. But I mean, even nowadays, that crash would have been nasty. But he was a character, all right. Didn't like Italians, apparently. I read.
Interesting.
Even though he was adored by them, he apparently didn't like them much. But it's Yeah, 40 years is crazy, really. But yeah, sad. But I mean, that still stands as one of my favourite. But yeah, I hate it. Years 82. I mean, the cars and stuff are amazing, but it was such a bad year. So dangerous. But yeah, no, it's to me he's above Senna. I liked the way he went racing. He was. Yeah, he wanted to be quickest every lap, but also he was very fair in battle. Yeah, if people like Alan Jones, who was a pretty hard nut himself, said, you knew exactly where you stood with him. He'd give you a Williams plus an inch room, and if you wanted to go through it, you could, but he would give you just enough room, but not make it easy. And I like that way of racing. He wouldn't put you off the track like is common these days. So. Yeah.
No, it was obviously a shock at the time, but I can't comment as I wasn't in existence
at that point. I said I think on the Discord, I was being slightly older. I remember it being played on the news. The crash was played over and over again on the news, and I was 9, and it's just like. Yeah, it's like 40 years ago. It's obviously a long time. It's not that long. It's like you would dream of it now.
No.
Yeah, it was just a completely different mentality. But I mean, it was a plane crash. It was just absolute plane crash. But yeah, no, different times back then. Formula One is so much safer now.
And as well, last week actually, when we ran the podcast, we didn't know that, unfortunately, Tony Brooks had died. A different era completely to the era of Gilles Villeneuve, and one that Matt doesn't quite remember. The 1950s. The 1950s, when it really was just, good luck, chap, off you go, don't die. Hopefully you get thrown away from your car if you crash. And I, honestly... Tony Brooks, for me, is somebody I've read a lot about him, and there is a Beyond the Grid F1 podcast from about 3 or 4 years ago now with Tony Brooks. Go and find it. Go and listen to his stories. He's a true gentleman, and the racing dentist, as he was known, absolutely brilliant man by the sound of it. Very humble as well. His children didn't know about his racing career. Really, he didn't talk about it, which I think really sums up sort of that kind of generation. And I don't know, Wolfbane, if he's somebody you know of or have heard of from the past, but yeah, definitely somebody I would recommend having a look at, because he was very close to winning the World Championship, and he won the 1959 British Grand Prix with Sterling Moss as well. They shared the victory technically because Moss used his car. Very different.
I kind of knew he existed, but I didn't know much. I am starting these days to look more into the older style of F1, and I find it fascinating.
Can you just define older for me?
1996.
Right. Older than me, just kind of the less safe, let's say, because it just, there's something about it that is just fascinating to me, that these people just threw their lives in these cars and were like, yep, fuck it, I'm going to drive this car around this track and hope I don't die, and if I die, oh dear.
I'll tell you what is a good read is Sid Watkins' first book. I think it's his first.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to get a flavour of what it was like, sort of late 70s, during the 80s and 90s, it's very, very good. It's a bit graphic in places, because obviously the sort of things you have to deal with, but it's really, really good.
No, if these podcasts serve anything, Wolfbane, maybe we'll dip you into some very classic conversations, because it's one of the things I love about Formula One. The history. It's 70 years of racing, It's a
There you go.
70-year-old
Life at
championship.
the limit. £3.49. Actually, that's
There you go.
US, but it's very, very good.
It's
Sorry,
it's fine. You can interrupt me. I'm not offended at all. But I'll just turn you on mute.
Imagine doing a podcast with Jam having that muted.
Go
There you
buy
go.
off Amazon. It's very good. But
Yeah, it's
There
nice.
you
Certainly have a look.
There we go. And if you've not read F1 books, I mean, I'm just looking at my shelf now. The one that is sticking out on my shelf, if nobody has ever read it, is Damon Hill. Damon Hill's book, which is called Watching the Wheels.
doesn't it drive you mad if it's sticking out?
No, not at all. Why? Books should stick out on bookshelves.
Sorry.
They're lovelier books. Don't get me talking about books, because otherwise I'll start talking about books. Anyway, Damon Hill, if you've not read it, it is a pure personal insight of what it takes to be a world champion and compete at that level, and also the self-doubt that he had. I read that book, and at the end I just wanted to find Damon Hill and give him a hug, which is not what I expected. He was one of my favourite drivers growing up, obviously, in the 90s. Damon Hill was the man, and Michael Schumacher was the enemy. But sometimes Damon Hill actually was the enemy at times as well. But he goes into a lot of detail about those things. But yes, there's loads of F1 books. Maybe we should do one day, when we've got time, our favourite drivers and some stuff that's maybe not to do with the current generation. Anyway, talking of things that are not about the current generation necessarily, we've got Wolfbane's favourite part of the podcast. We're coming to the end, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. This is the bit that you love the most, though. I've had lots of feedback on this. The quiz is what everybody stays around for, because this is where the podcast goes off the rails and things go completely wrong. Anyway, I've got the two envelopes here in front of me, and one is labelled A and one is labelled B, and they've got sets of questions in both. And last week I gave Wolfbane the choice, so this week, Matt, I am going to give you the choice. Do you want set A or do you want set B?
B, please.
Oh, set B. So you can answer the question without the multiple choice for 2 points, or you can get the multiple choice for 1 point. So set B for Matt. So, first question, Matt. How many races has Lando Norris outqualified Daniel Ricciardo in a row?
Crikey.
I mean, if you get this off the top of your head, I'll be impressed.
Give us the multi.
The multi-choice is 9, 6, or 3.
I'm gonna go for 6.
Oh, it's not. It's 9.
I did 9. Wow.
9 in a row. It's shocking.
crikey.
I could not believe that when I saw that stat, and I thought, I'm going to fit this into a question. Okay, so 9 times in a row for Daniel Ricciardo to be outqualified by Lando.
Yeah, Pat agreed with me. Thanks, Pat.
Pat's gone 6.
Yeah,
There we go.
I'd have gone 6 as well.
Yes. 9 is crazy.
Yeah.
He's got to go. He's getting close to the point. He's got to go. They're paying him
He's got-
$25 million, and he's not doing anything.
No, it's that. I was honestly shocked by that. That really is underlying problems there for Daniel. But we do talk about those in the podcast, and which you've already listened to, obviously, because you've made it this far. Anyway, we've got Wolfbane. First question, Wolfbane. You've got that red hair. First Ferrari front row at Miami. Since when? When was the last Ferrari front row before Miami?
Yeah, can you give me the options, please?
The options are Singapore 2017, Mexico 2019, or Azerbaijan 2021.
I'm gonna go with Singapore, I think.
So Singapore 2017, where they smashed into each other when it was a bit wet. No, it was Mexico 2019.
Of course it was.
It was, with Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc.
I would have done that as well. I would have gone 17.
On 17 as well. Oh,
Yeah.
Here you go. So Wolfbane, you're getting a bit of the map power, but unfortunately the map power is misfiring right now. So Matt, let's see if you can fire yourself into some points. Mick Schumacher didn't score any points this weekend, but how many Grand Prix has he started?
Oh, go on then, give us... Hang on. How many races were there last year? Give us a multi-choice.
The multi-choice is 22, 24, or 26.
26.
Oh, Matt has got a point. I could have been really mean there and given you 25, 26, or 27. Officially, he's entered 27 races, but he hasn't started 27 because of what reason? Can you think?
Yeah, cause he
why?
Shunted it again at Saudi and didn't start.
Exactly, Matt. There you go. That is why you are the quiz champion so far. But Wolfbane, don't be intimidated by him. Don't be intimidated.
I couldn't remember how many races there were last year. There was 22, I think, wasn't there?
There were. There were.
Yep.
And there's 23 this year, I think.
Yeah,
there's a lot. Anyway, there's a lot. There's more than 15, which is sacrilege. When did Lewis Hamilton get his nose pierced? Obviously, there was all that controversy about piercings and bits and pieces this weekend, which. So obviously,
that's a horrible question.
When did...
That's horrible.
I think I'll have the multiple choice, please.
do you not follow when Lewis Hamilton goes and gets his nose pierced?
Funnily enough, I don't.
Well, it's
I don't often feel sorry for you, Wolf. I do now. That's dreadful.
Rob on drums is here. Hi, Rob on drums.
Maybe Rob knows. Do you know when Hamilton had his nose pierced? Rob?
There you go, Rob. Do you know when Lewis Hamilton got his nose pierced? Pat has actually put an answer in there, so don't look at the question, because Lewis Hamilton got his nose pierced in what year? Was it 2014, 2017, or 2020?
I'm going to go 17, I think.
Pat read it this afternoon. Pat was reading the same article as I read. It was 2017, Wolfbane. You've got a point.
A point. Yes.
What a question.
What a question.
Are you reading the chat?
No.
No. Rob on drums sums it all up. He's at the quiz section and he doesn't really care, to be honest. There we go. There we go. Final question for you, Matt, today. What year, so we're going to the Spanish Grand Prix at the next round at the Circuit de Catalunya, which has the best name, one of the best names, and all it means is Catalunya Circuit. What year did the Circuit de Catalunya make its Formula One debut? Hosting
1991.
Oh, smashed it straight away. Didn't even need the options. And that race is famous for what, Wolfbane? What is that race famous for?
I no idea.
Go on, Matt. Tell our young Padawan.
And Mansell racing with an inch apart.
Side by side, sparks flying.
You could overtake back then.
You could.
On that track.
You could at one point round there. I think it was 2017 they had a good battle. Or was it 2019? I can't remember. 2020 was quite good. There can be some good battles there sometimes.
91, bloody hell, it's been around since 91.
Matt, everybody, Matt suddenly realised he's old.
Yeah, it still feels like a new track to me.
It's like, this brand new circuit.
I can remember when the Nürburgring GP came in, and everyone was going, "This track is rubbish. It's just not a patch on the old one," and blah 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 blah. It's like Nürburgring now is one of the better ones.
And it's part of our GTE championship. Well done.
Apart from in GT Sport and GT7 where it sucks. I hate the place. Rubbish track.
It's the third round of the GTE Championship coming to you live this weekend in Sunday Night League. There you go.
Sucks.
Put that. But we're at Spa. We're at Spa, and you'll remember that from the very beginning, dear ladies and gentlemen listening. Anyway, Wolfbane, sorry, we've been talking too much. This is your crucial question, so you'll need to get this one.
I think I'm allowed to get that right.
Without the options to draw, which will be the best result you've had so far. Okay, so I'm going to give you a lot of stats to start off with. None of them are really needed for the question, but I like them, to be honest. There's been 57 drivers from America in Formula 1. Only 19 of them have contested more than 10 Grand Prix, which is bonkers.
Yeah.
But who was the last American to win a Grand Prix?
Oh, I'm gonna make a wild guess because I may as well, and say Rossi, I think, but I could be wrong.
Which Rossi?
Yeah, good question. That's a very good question. Oh, brain, come on, brain. No, my brain's died. Can I have the options, please?
The options are Mario Andretti, Eddie Shiva, or Alexander Rossi.
Well, I'm going to stick with the Rossi and go with Alexander Rossi.
Matt Psycho's in the chat saying he'd guessed that too to Pat's thing. So Matt's given up on the quiz. He's disappeared on us. He's on the podcast as well, and he's in the chat. It is Mario Andretti, or my handwriting makes it look like Marco Andretti, which would be sensational. So Mario Andretti. Matt has disappeared.
No, I'm still here. I'm multitasking. Yeah, I'm multitasking.
He's multitasking. Oh, there we go. It's just because he's gone very quiet. There we go.
That would be... right, can I take a punt? That would be 1978. Oh, God.
Do you want to go for the Grand Prix as well?
Oh, I think he won Monza, but was disqualified. Well, not disqualified. He had a penalty. Did he win after that? I don't think he did. I'd say Dutch, Holland.
There's a reason why Matt is so old. Yes, it is the Dutch Grand Prix.
Really?
The 1978 Dutch Grand Prix was won by Mario Andretti.
Even of myself.
That is amazing. I mean, that is going beyond. I don't think I'd be able to do that, but there we go. That is amazing.
Oh, wow.
I want to give you an extra point, Matt, but I'm not going to.
Really, 1978 was the last American win.
Yes. I did want to do point, but that's Michael Andretti as far as I can tell, because I don't think Scott Speed scored any points, but I couldn't go back far enough to go and find out, and I couldn't be bothered, to be honest, either, because I don't like wasting my time on Scott Speed, really. But there we go. Anyway,
they've got to sort this out, haven't they? They've got to get a decent American driver back in.
Well, that Paddy O'Ward looks quite good. He looks very good. He signed up with McLaren for a while, but notably McLaren Group rather than the McLaren IndyCar team. So hopefully we'll see him in a Formula One. And judging by the rate that Endurance Nut has just arrived for the podcast. Brilliant, Endurance Nut. You've just arrived as we're about to wrap up. Go rewind, give it a like, share, comment in the chat there. So Endurance Nut has arrived. Endurance Nut, he's got a Mercedes banner there, but I suppose he's going to have to change that to Corvette.
He is, yeah.
Yeah, I believe he's
the boss man. We need to talk boss man, by the way. So Jam tells me.
Some secrets may have been revealed, Endurance Nut. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, on those bombshells, I think it's time we say good night. It's not actually such a shambles at the end compared to the previous nights. I must be quite awake. So, have you got anything you'd like to share, Wolfbane?
No, I'm happy. I don't have anything else to say. Yes.
I'm just noticing the view count is going up as we're finishing off this shambles. There we go. That Carlton Herter may be getting test time, says Pat. Zach Brown.
I'll tell you who is getting test time. Mario Andretti.
Oh, he is. Yes, he's been offered.
Yeah, they were on the grid, and it was live on Sky, and basically Mario talked his way into Zach Brown giving him a test. Zach Brown was like, "Yeah, you're quite old," and Mario was like, "Don't know. If I can fit in the car, we're doing it." I was like, "Yeah. Okay."
So that's typical Mario. He'll get himself into anything, won't he? It does still fascinate me that he was still around racing for as long as he was. The same with Fittipaldi as well, actually. How long they were just racing anything they could get their hands on. But there we go. Anything, Matt, that you'd like to add after the Mario comment?
No, I'm going to keep quiet about old stuff because I'm making myself feel really old. So.
Feeling very old. We might do an F1 Classic podcast maybe once, and Matt can talk about the good old days when everything was in black and white.
Well, yeah, it wasn't always good, but I'll tell you what, the interest is these, when you did the rose-tinted glasses, like, there used to be races where there'll be 3 drivers on the same lap, or third would be 2 laps behind, so it definitely wasn't always great.
I remember Jean Lacey doing something crazy in a Salbro in 1998. He was in about third in qualifying for ever so long behind the McLarens, but he was about 2 seconds off the McLarens.
Yeah,
and he was in third. So there we go. It wasn't always as good as people make out in the past, but rose-tinted glasses. Anyway, on those notes, good night, everybody. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Do what you like with these podcasts. These are surprised actually by how many people listen to these, so keep listening. It's got a nice little following. Obviously, it's not anywhere near over the 400 people that viewed our race at the Red Bull Ring. Over 400 now.
I kind of random look yesterday. I was like, oh my god, that's doubled since I last looked. Yes,
it doubled since I last looked as well. So something's obviously triggered it. It's got 400 views. Hopefully we'll get somewhere near that for our normal GTE Championship as well. It's coming. So, yes, if you're listening to this, we've got new subscribers as well. If you're listening to this and going, we've got the racing coming, don't worry. The racing is coming. So, anyway, until then, till Sunday night. Good night. Bye.